regarding this portion of the workforce that we've deemed the gap, which is really the people that all of us involved in the project are going to have to hire to handle this workload. We all have existing workforces. This is extraordinary in size, and it's going to require all of us to seek new people to work on the project. So we've deemed that the gap, and everybody knows that generally the most contractors around are not where they need to be when it comes to diversity in their workforce. So, so the existing workforce is what it is. So the way to make it better is when you got to hire somebody, we want to focus on hiring diversity for that gap in order to weigh the percentage of our overall workforce and make it look how we're all trying to make it look here. So that's the question. Do we have anybody that wants to volunteer to speak at the end?
Katrina's up first, and I believe let's see, it's Joseph, are you in my group? I'm just making sure. No. Okay, Goose, can you take notes too, please? I'll take notes as well.
Remember, I think we need somebody that'll speak at the end to the group.
Yes, who's going to be who's going to take notes and
report out?
I unfortunately have to leave early, so I can't do it because I have to, but otherwise I would, but I have to leave early, so I do apologize.
I'll do it if y'all don't mind it being me. It really should be a COAC member, but I'll do it for y'all. Is that okay? All right, cool. All right, go ahead, Miss Katrina, you were up.
So I spend a lot of time with contractors that are on projects that are really looking for me to educate them and get them through some loophole to get out of this, get out of workforce requirements. And including some companies that would really shock us. And so, of course, I never help them. And instead, I try to educate them about what are some of the reasons that you don't want to take a new apprentice on because they're green. Well, the reason that they're green is they wait until our busy season, whether it's union or open shop, and then they're wanting someone that's got experience. And so if we get folks in now, and let's take heavy equipment operators, for example, you need to put somebody on private work where it's safe for them to get equipment time in, and then you can put them on a project where they're going to be valuable to you, more valuable to you. And so I feel like if I'm not sure exactly what the answer to that is, but maybe there's some sort of incentive that contractors can have now, so that if we're awarding and if we're looking at jobs in general and what the diversity is, but maybe we stop giving exceptions. And so I like specifically HEO, it's very easy to say that it's unsafe. Well, why is it unsafe? Why didn't you pre-plan for that? And so if they bring folks on now, the other thing to think about is in an apprenticeship, everybody does this, but if I have somebody that I want to place, I'm not technically supposed to call a contractor and say, I have somebody from, this representation and I don't want to lose them. I need you to take them on. And so while we all do that, we're then now handpicking one person over everybody else. And so we can technically get in trouble for that. Yet the contractors that are agreeing to take folks on don't get the recognition that they took somebody on so that we wouldn't lose them. And so maybe some sort of community letters or supports when contracts are being awarded for folks that really are going above and beyond, because those efforts aren't being shown, necessarily in their numbers of the things that they're doing above and beyond to help the community. So I'm not exactly sure what that looks like, but just some way to give incentive for contractors who aren't doing it to start now, and some way to give the contractors who are really trying to be in apprenticeship for the right reasons and use the workforce, but they aren't necessarily getting the recognition for the extra things that they do. So for example, we recently had a couple of folks from Constructing Hope that we were able to get in and placed. And that's great. The contractors are looking down the road 18 months from now. They should be recognized for that somehow. So that's my 2 cents.
Cool.
Thank you, thank you.
Go ahead, James.
Okay. So, you know, I'm trying to think non-conventional, outside the box, and maybe it's still a little radical for folk to really get down to this, but I've mentioned this before. We need to go ahead and get a criminal justice career development specialist to work with our prison population, people who are in there who could come out, who are already, you know, in a position where they have to do certain things, develop an in-house program within the prison system to do excavating or sheetrock or anything like that. We need to try to recover some of those people who have been put in jail or who have issues that could be good prospects for construction. Give people a daggum chance. You know, I mean, people have been, you know, marijuana or whatever. And Shelley, you know, this is an area where I think you need to roll up in there and get them people to put a criminal justice coordinator that would replicate something that will help bring people. We can kind of track them. Don't get me wrong. I understand this is a challenge. This is not something that's easy. I'm a former probation officer, so I know what the deal is working with people who have criminal backgrounds. But at the end of the day, I think it's viable for us to do that, and we need to get that up and running right away, like yesterday. Now, that's one idea. Secondly, the second idea for me, and I tried to push this through the Coalition of Black Men, was for us to do intensive job shadowing of those critical areas like operators. And what I mean by that, across ODOT, you have your in-house operators and maintenance and other people who know how to do this stuff. If we marry some young people who go in on an internship to really job shadow intensively, and of course it has to be incentivized. I'm a big person on incentivizing people so they can have some on both ends. The people who are doing the mentoring and those mentorees need to be incentivized. Y'all need to come up with the money to make this work. So whether it be with ODOT, whether it be with the city of Portland or Metro, you need to put together a database where you can marry many of the skilled people with people who want to do this. And you need, you know, you can do the dating game thing if you want. You know, I'm just using that as an example, but we have to put the science on this thing. We have to begin to think smarter and more out of the box on how we do it, because if we keep doing the traditional thing, it'll never happen. We don't have enough time to scale up to be able to do this the way we've done it traditionally. So those are two things that I would like to see, and they've been done before. It's not like it's not like I'm talking about something in the blue sky. So why don't you do this, Shelley? I'm talking to you directly, Shelley. You respond out of ODOT.
James, I don't know why we haven't done it. You know, this would take a big commitment from headquarters, and I don't happen to work in headquarters. It's certainly something that I'm happy to elevate and to talk with others about. You know, I know that it seems like ODOT's constantly behind, and I agree. We are often behind, but I think you also have to understand that sometimes change is incremental, and you know, this project is an example of a start of what we're trying to do to change. Obviously, we've got a lot more to do, but I also know that it's unrealistic to do all of the change at once. It doesn't mean that I won't elevate your suggestions, and I think they're good ones. But I may need some help.
You know,
With
Shelley,
that, I think, yeah.
at some point,
Go ahead.
somebody's got to make a commitment to do this stuff and do it now. They at some point, for us to be sitting around twiddling our thumbs when we know there
I
are
hear you,
opportunities
James.
to do this stuff, and you know, I'm feeling like as a COAC member, we're just sitting here watching this thing go past us without somebody getting out the resources to make it happen. I know Matt and the people at Hamilton and all the rest of the folk, they want to do it too, but somebody is not connecting the dots. The people on Matt's organization and Jeff and the organization, you know, we have a culture of people who should be working together to look and vet these young people and old people. Here's another clue. Let me just give you another clue. I'm 75 years old, but I can still run a backhoe. No one has asked me to train nobody. I might come back out of retirement. Somebody give me enough incentives. I can do 2 or 3 hours a day I still got my CDL. You know, I got my commercial driver's license. No, how many?
I love that idea. I love that idea.
You know, yeah,
Okay.
you know, I'm still, I got a little pot
Okay.
belly, but at the end of the day, I can do just about everything everybody else can do. Y'all feel me on that?
Yes.
I do.
That's on the other end of this of the agenda. Look at Matt with the gray hair. They ain't put him out to pasture.
No,
You know,
not yet.
there's a lot of Matts out there like that who would love to be in a training position for young people to do some things that we traditionally don't have. We got to do this.
Mhm.
So
Felicia,
here-
James.
yeah, yep, I'll just go really quickly. So what I'm hearing is a running theme, Amber, which is
Yep.
access to opportunity is lacking in exposure to opportunity. When I listen to Katrina and I listen to James and I listen to Matt, those are the priority areas I hear is access to opportunity, but most importantly, also access to exposure. One of the things I was blessed to be able to work on with Michael Birch, who's on this call, is work on this thing called IFED, where we were able to expose high schoolers to the trades. And I think that one of the things we should really think about is what James said, is building mentorship, but also building exposure and creating sort of that sort of pipeline opportunities from multiple sources. When I think of another industry that's struggling to get people of color, which is the airline industry. And one of the most difficult things for people of color, for example, is to get the actual flight hours, right? And so now there are new programs to help people of color get the flight hours. When I listen to Katrina, one of the things I hear that's really difficult for people of color is they're too green when they're coming into these apprentice programs. So what can we do to get these people that are too green, like what Katrina's saying, getting them their private opportunities, the private sector opportunities, so when they come to her, they're not so green. So it's and that possibility is happening, can happen by what James is saying. Mentorship opportunities can help, and where we can collaborate with private sector, so that Katrina and Michael, who's now retired out of there, out of that industry, can then get apprenticeship programs for these people so they're not so green. So James, I agree with you 100%. There has to be some more collaboration, and I'm willing to come to the table on this project because this is an area I work quite a bit with young people and mentorship, and especially at the high school and collegiate level. And so that
cool.
that Katrina really has a good point, because I've heard that one several times. So, and so that's my 2 cents.
Cool.
I think Webb had his hand up, and then I can answer that question Katrina posed also next.
Yeah, just a couple of things. Sorry, my voice is kind of gone. But so with Katrina's, and then Felicia, then James Posey, just as a contractor representing Raymore, is one of the reasons why I think we have to talk about best value when we're looking for subcontractors over low bid. And if people understand the differences, because if you go for best value, then the intentionality of trying to go people over profit it's there. It's a lot easier to deal and to build up people and build up apprentices when you do have contractors out there to say, hey, I'm willing to take a little bit less of a profit, right, to help develop and to give back to this industry. You're not going. It's almost impossible to do that when you mandate or you say we have to go with low bid process for a certain amount of jobs. So I think we need to understand like the best value where we can do those things, right? I think the incentives that Posey is saying, as well as others are saying, is that it could be from a monetary standpoint, it could be from a marketing support, it incentivized can be from different aspects dealing with the needs of the contractor who's doing these things. I think Posey's idea is great to have the old retired backhoe hands be able to give the opportunity to give back. I will pay Posey personally to see him back on a backhoe,
Yes, I will too.
just to train him. So you got $100 from me, Posey, right now.
Me too.
I will see you tomorrow morning. I'll pay you $100 an hour. Give me 1 hour. I got a guy for you. You got $100. You got a contract right there. But I just wanted to kind of, because when I heard Katrina speaking and Felicia and Posey, to tie them all in, because I know this is what Raymore does all the time. This is standard practice for me, right? So, and also for Matt, these are standard practices, what we're doing. But I think we need to just start understanding the value of getting best value bids and kind of going away from the low bid, which ODOT is accustomed to that, which is going to be, you're going to hear the same old good old boy conversation constantly. They're not skilled. Well, he's never going to be skilled if you're never going to give that opportunity, right? But if you get best value contractors, you're saying, okay, we picked you because of this, right? And we want these things in your plan. They can actually go into it with the understanding, and they can win, and that apprentice can win, and that's how you build the industry forwardly the right way. And we're reconstructing what you guys have, what we've seen out here. So that's just my little 2 cents.
Thanks.
James.
Yeah, I just want to say in support of what Webb just said, you know, as an old contractor, one of the real issues around being in business is managing your risks. Having people out there untrained, et cetera, who come from the criminal justice system, blah, 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 all these things. Risk is the killer for a contractor, any contractor in business. And so when you see a Raymore and they do all these things that are outside the norm in terms of trying to achieve what they're trying to achieve, there's risk involved. They ought to be paid for that. People ought to acknowledge that we're talking about doing something that we traditionally don't do. Typically, the contractors have a race to the bottom in the low bid. They want to cut everybody's throat under them. Now that y'all don't want to hear me say that, but you know, I've been in this business, so I really know what the deal is. And so when you got somebody like Raymore who are really willing to put together a diversity plan that involves a multitude of factors not common for the traditional construction industry, they really are doing something. When you got people like Webb and Terrence and all of them going outside of their box, they work their 8-hour-a-day job and then go on the street to try to work something for the community associated with that. That's a value proposition that we're not factoring into what we're trying to do here on this project. I just want to let that be known. That is a factor.
So we have about 5 more minutes. Yes, Michael?
Hey, real quick, Amber, I'd like to answer Katrina's question.
Oh, yeah,
that she
sorry,
put in
sure.
the chat. And I can't speak to all contractors, but in our company, a driver's license is not required for employment. So again, I don't know how other people work, but we don't care. I mean, obviously, if they're in a commercial vehicle, they need to have a license, but to be an equipment operator or a laborer or a pipe layer. We don't care what they have. We just, as long as they show up for work in the morning with a good attitude and want to learn, we're good. So
Matt, the reason I bring that up is because of access. So there's a lot of times that we're working with, let's just take Constructing Hope, for example, where they've come out of the incarceration, being incarcerated, and it might take them a while to get their funds back up and get their driver's license back. If they're working with Clean Slate, or there might be a single parent who maybe is behind on their child support or something like that, so the license gets suspended. And so we do a lot of work to get great talent in, and they've got what I envision as a small hurdle of a driver's license. And as long as they've got reliable transportation, there are a lot of contractors that will put on their apprentice request that they require a driver's license. And I will try to, work and beg that contractor to say, I've got some really great talents, and they'll just turn them down and say absolutely no without even giving them a chance. So it's a barrier, and it's a common barrier especially when we're working with populations that single parents, for example, folks that are coming out of incarceration that just can't get their license because of fines and those sorts of things.
So Black Parent Initiative
Wait,
has a
time out,
program.
time out, James.
Okay.
Just- I'm trying to get 30
Oh,
seconds
sorry.
before we.
Yeah,
Okay, go.
I'm going to respond to Katrina.
So we no longer require a driver's license. We haven't been requiring a driver's license for over a year. We also don't have, the only stipulation we have around having a criminal record is that there are a couple of places that will do a 10-year background check. And that's usually Intel or Nike. But I was told if we had removed everyone from the industry that had a criminal record, nothing would get built. So there is no barrier to folks getting in. I've been to Sheridan, I've been to Coffee Creek. There are programs that exist. I know Coffee Creek used to have a program, but our issue today is that there's work out there that we don't have enough of us in this room, in this meeting, coming together to put our heads together on best practices. If we did, we would stop talking about the things that we're talking about, because there are people not going to work because of all the damn meetings we're in and all the conversations we have and all of the excuses ODOT shows up with. They're doing work all over the state. There's bridges, there's highways, there's absolutely no excuse for ODOT to say, we're only focused on this project, when we've been after ODOT in Portland for 20 years to do more, to do better, to be more inclusive, to give Black people an opportunity to go to work, and they've never cooperated. So this is not something new to anyone in this room, and we could do a lot better if people actually put their cards on the table and said, this is what we're after, because they're out there. They're killing each other because they don't have a future. They don't believe that they can make money without having to look over their shoulders for the police. It's
Right.
ridiculous that we keep having these meetings and no progress is made. If you want to do something, you can do it. If there was some incentive for ODOT to move off the dime, they would do it. Instead of telling us they have to rethink it, they have to come back with another plan. I think everybody in the room, I agree with what I've heard. I know that is being genuine about wanting to do the right thing. There's